You there?
Yeah.
Danny, how you doing?
Did you call this morning?
Nope. It's my first time.
I heard the phone ring and I ran in, but it had run out by the time I got here.
Did you receive the package today?
Yeah.
Did you open it?
Yeah.
Is that useful?
Yeah.
Can't have you sitting in the dark sometimes, you know?
Well, I use this one for the purpose of informing Hydro that the world doesn't end at their front door. And therefore, I put it up on the garage so they can all see it from the street.
We will survive.
We will survive.
Of course.
There's no name on it.
Because I ordered it through Amazon. But that's kind of funny, huh?
Yeah.
And, normally you ship it to yourself and it comes from Amazon, but I had to put it through Canada. A little tough finding. I had to do a quick research to find out which ones would be work, and as far as the brightness, and they said that one's fairly bright. So I guess you'll see tonight.
We'll know tonight.
Yeah. I didn't want to say anything yet until you got it because I was checking the tracking, and then it said that it was on the truck yesterday.
Right.
And it was supposed to be delivered, and then all of a sudden I checked it again later today, and then it said today, Friday. So I was a little like, oh. And I don't have to mention anything until I know the deal by now.
Yeah. Well, it said it was a barn light. So since the animals are in the garage, and the garage is facing the front gate, why not?
Yeah, and you can put it indoors too, indoor or outdoor if you need it. If you want to, sit by the light when you're eating or something like that.
It's got a long enough wire on it to put it, I don't know, about 10 feet, 15 feet maybe.
Okay.
So the thing that needs to be in the sun can be in the sun, and then where the light is can be about 10 or 15 feet away. And it's a fairly thin wire, which means that if it's indoors, it doesn't leave a big gap in whatever you're closing.
Right.
You probably can squeeze between. You wouldn't even know the wire went through there. But I've got the light at the corner of the garage so that when I'm going by, I can pull the chain. And the solar panels are directly over the door, which is about the length of the wire away. So that it gets sunlight from about 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun gets to the front. It goes down across the street at some time, depending on the time of the year, between 4 and 9. So it will have most of the day in some sunlight, if there's sun, of course. It says that it lasts about 5 hours. So if I turn it on, say at 9 o'clock when it gets dark, it'll be on all the time traffic is going by.
I'll probably, over time, I'll send you some more so you can have something for the inside.
Yeah.
And you
can always use those.
Well, because what it was, I remember at the last talk, you were saying the cell said solar. They were really big on solar, right?
Yeah.
So I started searching for solar survival stuff, and, I didn't know how you are on flashlights, but I figured battery, I don't know. I started in that realm with the lighting, and then I saw that they had those units, and I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Very easy to put together.
That's good.
And, of course, I'm in daylight, so I don't know how much light it shines, but it comes on.
Yep. Yeah, some
it's
people.
One of those many bulb things,
Yeah, I believe it's LED light, so it consumes less energy.
Yeah.
That's why it can last that long.
And it's got a cadmium battery, which probably means it's a good thing you ordered in Canada, because they're always afraid to ship those things by plane across the border. They've had a couple of events recently with batteries exploding when there's more than one telephone in the same box. Something to do with how one battery reacts with another one that's close by. But in the case of lights, they wouldn't be close by. Close by means a foot. Yeah.
The packaging was all right? It was...
Yeah.
Okay.
Little box, and the different components are wrapped separately. And they provide screws, which is unusual when somebody thinks further than their product.
Yeah. So how are you on like flashlights and other types of lights like that?
Well, I could use a flashlight with a wide beam.
Okay.
Because it gets really dark at night. We used to have a light on the post outside. So a normal flashlight focuses in front, and you're not going to walk into something. But you don't see anything around you.
Right. You almost need those old school lantern ones with that big fat battery, right?
I don't know. I saw advertised. I'm trying to think of. I think it was Rona or Homa Hardware or something, that they were selling. When you look at it, it looks like a regular flashlight, but the front of it probably has 4 or 5 lights in it,
going across
side by side. So it gives a very wide beam, and it was in the $20 range.
I'm trying to think of something that's most efficient for you, and they have ones that are hand crank, so you don't have to worry about buying batteries, and they have solar ones as well, and then there's just the battery one. So I don't know which one might be best for you.
Solar is best if it's fixed in one place. Battery is best if you're walking around with it.
You probably need one for outside, one for just inside, or like a lantern or something to walk around.
Whatever.
Okay, I'll look into that.
I was trying to go out to see where the cats are, and sometimes it's dark, and a cat isn't that big, so the wider beam would allow me to catch much more.
Right. Reflection of the eyes or something. Yeah. And what about other stuff? Like, I'm trying to see as much solar stuff as possible, because I know that's endless energy, and it's not like you have to keep buying stuff. As far as what you do.
Let's say I can be the test range. If you think something can work, I don't even know whether it suits or not, as long as it's not too expensive.
There's even,
then I can give you a report back on how well it works.
Okay, yeah, because there's even stuff that's, a little higher budget for me right now, but they have solar generators. You can have electric. They would take a long time, obviously, to accumulate the power, and I don't know what kind of devices you could use. Probably not really heavy,
Well, they can be, the ones that would be worthwhile for a place like this size would be very expensive. At this stage of the game, the smallest one would be in the $5,000 range. So.
Yeah. I was even looking at solar refrigerators. They're like $1,200. My whole thing with you is like, I'm just like, if I can get this guy to eat in some light instead of sitting in the dark while you eat, at least have that for you, So maybe at first we'll do lighting. If you have a couple things around.
Much appreciate your concern.
Yeah, of course. Hey, you've given me so much more than a little light bulb, so you can turn my light bulb on.
Yeah, well, there's not too many people who can absorb this stuff and follow up on it type of thing. Most people just give up. Too complicated.
With Jared and I, we like record your talks, and then I probably listen to the same talk a dozen times. Every single night before I go to sleep, I'll listen to a talk, and then it's always something else. Right. you know how it works, the osmosis thing.
Yeah.
So, if you hear all that once, and then weeks go by, months goes by, you're not going to get it. But you have to keep listening. Like it's like my favorite song or a favorite movie. I keep playing it over and over again. And that way it's recorded too, so it can be passed on later on and to people and shared. And most people, they see it's an hour or even like your workshops, 3 hours. Like they look at it like it's a chore. I look at it like it's only 3 hours, man. We need more.
The problem is your mind hears something and wanders a bit, so you have to listen to it over and over again because you'll get different things that where your mind wandered the first time, it stays through that part and wanders somewhere else.
And initially why we started recording, because when I would first call you, I would have a notepad. I would try to write down everything you were saying.
Yeah.
The pages just filled up and sideways and all nooks and crannies. They're trying to fit everything in there, and there's too much.
You can never find the right place in the notes later on. When you need it, you can't get it. And when you find it, it's too late.
Yeah.
So
I do remember, I think it was actually probably our first talk we had. I asked you why time counts down from BC to AD, right? Like why it counts down, and why is everyone okay with it counting down? Like no one realized, like, well, everyone is comfortable with the fact that all of time before Jesus was born, at least that side of it, that it's a countdown. And no one questions why it's a countdown.
if you look at how they show it in the Bible, it creates the number 80 because for 4,000 years it drops down and crosses over and drops down and crosses over. And then it comes back in the opposite direction. So what you end up doing is filling in the two numbers 8 and 0. 8 being the closest to the year 0, and O being the closest to the year 1 in their terms. So it's 4,000 years, and you return 4,000 years. So it starts in 4,000 BC, goes to 0, and comes back. Now, there are people shown, starting with Adam, shown in every stage until you get to 0 and start working your way back to 2000, 2050 to 60. All of a sudden, there are no more people. So what happens there? Now, my definition is all of the people they name are not persons. They are gene pools. And they are programmed for a specific task. So each task to take them on the journey they want lasts a certain amount of time, and then that gene pool's effectiveness wears off, and it's like shelf life expired. So they got to eliminate that gang and make another one for another bit of the journey, and another one and another one. All of a sudden they realize, oh, we went too far. So the next gene pool they make takes them back towards the middle, and the obvious thing is they always go too far. So they've left year 1, gone to the year 2000, returned to the year 1,000, go back from 1,000 to the year 0, and then start the journey in reverse on the opposite side. And that's how you end up getting the number 8 and the number 0. Now, in coding, 0 means original, means prior to the Ice Age, this is what they had to work with. And then the 8 is the male, because there was no male until gene pools could separate genders out of a hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite is the 0, can make copies of itself, but cannot make a different gender. Mm-hmm. The minute you make a different gender, then you have male-female. The male has a specific task to do, and that's to liberate the woman from the task of survival and let the woman part concentrate on giving birth. So at one stage of the game, if you're going to go into space, genders are a problem. Your solution is the hermaphrodite as it was when they first arrived on Earth. So you got to get rid of men, but not get rid of the work of men when it comes to fertilizing the eggs. So the men have to reappear inside the woman, as it did originally. Like most plants, by the way, start off life as hermaphrodites, cloning only. And that's what you need to return to, because if you're going to go in space and divide the opportunities into as many possibilities as you can imagine, then the word acorn comes into play. An acorn is like a space vehicle, and inside would be the hermaphrodite side, an acorn, of course, the nut. And it's not an accident. They call people who want to go in space nuts. But what it basically means is you're going on a one-way trip. And you can, if they so decide, to make a copy of yourself, if you're the hermaphrodite, by unlocking a locked safe that would give access to the fertilizing material. However, and that would mean that you're making a clone of yourself and you can die off and the next one repeat the process. But if you find something of value that requires manufacturing or a large number of people, it may be a couple of 100 years in between, or 100 years in between, or 10 years in between, or whatever. They will then send a population of hermaphrodites to the one place, make a bigger spacecraft, and send a population, but genetically engineered not to revolt.
So they would have to do some kind of, because if you're just making a clone, that program would have to be fairly strong so they'd know what to do without getting taught what to do.
Specifically based upon what they find. And if they're not, when they arrive and they find something and they're not programmed to do it, they're in communications with Earth and they can say, hey, this is what we have here, this is what is required. I'm going to be of no use to you in the future, but you should be sending a group of people here. Now, on Earth, they don't have to take the person's word for it because they see what the person sees. They smell what the person smells. They hear what the person hears, and so on. So it's as if they themselves, through communications and translation of senses and stuff like that, they know exactly what they need to send up and not misinterpret what the person is saying. They can say to the person, now wait a minute, you said this is blue. Well, we tell you it's red. Fix your eyesight to red.
Yeah, because these would have to be, extremely intelligent. And, I'm only trying to fathom it as a human, the intelligence, but you have to be, for example, if you're going to be this clone, and if, I don't know if they're freezing them until they get to their destination and then they wake them up and then they're alive, or if they're throughout that whole time period giving birth on the ship, I don't know, but someone would have to be taught, how to walk, how to get there, how to do all this, how to pick up something, how to, talk, and it has to be almost really programmed in like a machine.
What you have today is schools of higher learning. That doesn't teach you basic stuff. What it does is pinpoint your brain and match it with a job, and they call that engineering. So if they can get you to specialize as a doctor or a lawyer or whatever in your learning, it will be easy. And you will come away having made total use of your intelligence.
Right.
That, however, doesn't make you smart.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you a product of memory and focused on one thing. And that's what they need once they know what they're working with. At first, what they need is a person who has no specialty but is nosy about everything.
Well, it's true even with schooling. It's more the testing, the way that they test is it's like a personality profile. So if you think some kind of personality fits into one way, you'll be excellent in math and algebra, where another person might, it confuses them and they might go a different route. So it's just sifting out the different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jennifer and I are good examples of the opposites in that stuff. The things that she does extremely well, I can't stand. She's in the medical profession. She deals with concepts that are based upon a language belonging to medicine. And it seems that the words they use are designed to separate the person who can deal with that from the person who hates it. And I wouldn't want to have a discussion with Jennifer on medicine. And she wouldn't want to have a discussion with me based upon the bigger picture.
Because your memory
is focused. Mine is broad.
But your memory is probably the best I've ever encountered in my life. I've never met anyone that has a memory like yours.
Yeah. As I get older now, what becomes a problem is I forget simple words. I know what I want to say, but I don't remember the word that goes with it.
Right.
So Jennifer comes in, and I tell her what I'm looking for. She knows it right away.
She helps you articulate.
That's where our partnership comes in.
I'm similar to you. I'm like, do I need to take some ginkgo vitamin supplements or something like that?
What was the name of that thing that I was telling you about? It could be something that I spoke about 10 minutes ago. Now I don't remember it. You know? It's not usually the long-term stuff that you forget. It's the immediacy. And all of that can lead to things like Alzheimer's.
Wow.
Here, I believe I have found an answer. If nothing else in the things that I have learned, and that answer is the origin of all disease that leads to heart attacks, strokes, cancer, you name it, is the clumping together of glands. Once you clump glands together, they can't do what they were designed to do. Yeah. And therefore, they go astray. And that is then defined as a stroke or a heart attack or lung cancer or breast cancer. It's because a lump is blocking the system from functioning. Yeah. And all of that is due to the electrical company surcharging the equipment that's on the end of a line and sending the surplus into the ground where it strikes magnetism, a magnet in the way of a stone, and it causes the stone to create a magnetic field which rises above the level of the ground, is invisible to the people around it, but has the clumping effect on all living things, whether they be plants, animals, humans. If you're walking in a magnetic field, you're in danger. And one of the things that it does is it takes a very precise piece of electronic equipment and causes it to misread the information it gets. And that's why Hydro replaced all their analog meters with what they call smart meters, because they always misread in their favor. Yeah. And surcharge is not just the electricity they send you, but it's the amount they put on your bill. So, the province of Saskatchewan had them all pulled, removed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, with the analog ones, it would just speed up the dial, though, wouldn't it still calculate higher?
It goes higher, faster. It's as if you're using more.
And what about the electromagnetic field that's coming out of every outlet that's basically the height of your head when you're sleeping, you know?
It comes from telephone lines, because the electromagnetic requires a thin wire. It can't travel large distances on normal hydro lines. So what they do is they link the hydro box to the telephone box. Then it transfers from one to the other. And whatever electromagnetic field is built in the room around where the device is. And the more devices in the same general area, the higher the magnetic field. This house was built as a testing ground for that. There are no two rooms the same. There is no sheetrock. There's none of that in this house. Oh, really? There is insulation on the ceiling of some rooms and not on others, so that the magnetic field can go higher or lower. All of that was done by the fact that water is the mode of transmission. So they built a house on a foundation surrounded by a network of pipes that act in reverse to the intent of a normal house. It brings water towards the house and basement, under the basement foundation, rather than taking it away. And in that water, they position gravel, because water brings it from one stone to the other. And the closer to the underside of the house they got, the bigger the rocks got. And all of the rocks that are put in position are 2-in-1. There's a material on the outside, mostly granite, and there's a different material on the inside, and the inside heats up from the magnetism, and at one stage of the game, the inside explodes and breaks the granite so it can escape. Now, when it explodes, there's a surplus of magnetism that is spread to make a cloud, but there's also the physical damage done by the explosion of the rocks themselves. But I couldn't find that until I dug my way under the house.
So is this what that knocking was that you would hear under your house before?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's rocks exploding. So these are all lessons that I needed to understand, or as they say, overstand. And somehow I've been built in a way that is, in this lifetime, able to absorb the most damaging part of that process. But my, of course, hydrocele that I suffer from is an exception. Most of the people will begin by having sore knees and electrical pain from the neurons in their feet. That then works up all the way, and depending on which part of the body is the weakest, will choose whether to create a cancer or a heart condition or a stroke or what have you. But they're all basically generated by the same activity, which is taking glands that are positioned within the body and moving them as a cluster. And when the minute you have these clusters, that's when you have a problem. They compete for space with each other, block each other off, create growths. And anyway, Danny, I gotta go.
Okay.
I got somebody coming to the back here.
All right, Glenn.
I'll talk to you again. Thanks for the shining light.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Bye for now.
All right.